OG Lee in the house once again, once again. Thank goodness, thank goodness. President Trump says that Baltimore is rat infested. And guess what? President Trump is right.
Cummings district is a disgusting, rat and rodent infested mess. If he spent more time in Baltimore, maybe he could help clean up this very dangerous and filthy place. No human being would want to live there.
Not only is Donald Trump not a racist, he believes that all people are part of one race, the human race.
This morning, I left my community of Baltimore, a drug-infested area. Keep in mind, Baltimore only has a population of 674,000.
If it's one thing that I could say about President Trump, and I'll say this and preface this by saying that I'm neither a Democrat or a Republican. But one thing that I'll say about President Trump is he is bringing some things to light.
Baltimore, a drug-infested area.
Trump tells him to go back to his rat and rodent-infested city.
Show some RESPICT.
He is bringing some things to light. He won't be able to drain the swamp. It's just too entrenched in our politics. So he won't be able to drain the swamp of the corruption. But he's bringing some things to light.
Cummings district is a disgusting, rat and rodent infested mess. If he spent more time in Baltimore, maybe he could help clean up this very dangerous and filthy place.
Show some RESPICT.
Cummings district is a disgusting, rat and rodent infested mess.
I know Donald Trump. Show some RESPICT.
You've got to be honest and said he is bringing some things to light. Because when a person says something, it makes the other person or the other people have to think about what they said and evaluate it. And they may not want to admit it, but if it's true, it gets in their craw.
What you look at is what would a third world country look like?
Baltimore is no different than some of the what they call favelas in Brazil. It's no different. Now, I guarantee you, the people will tell you that the favelas of Brazil are rat infested. It has nothing to do with the place. It has to do with the socioeconomic aspect of the people living there. So, do we have some low socioeconomic level people living in Baltimore? Yes. Where they live tends to be rat infested. Now, you're going to have tight quarters, a lot of people. Have you ever been to a public bathroom? Have you ever looked around and said, wow, I would have never put that piece of toilet paper with that shit on it on the floor over there? Who the hell did that? I would have never pissed all over the floor, all around the urinal like that. Who did that? I would have never hawk spit and left a fucking loogie in the sink. Who did that? You get my point? You start getting all this shit together, man, you're going to have nastiness. You're going to have filth. It has no difference to do with Baltimore or if it's in New Delhi, India. I'm telling you, it's the people and their habits.
Anyone who took the walk that we took around this neighborhood would not think you're in a wealthy nation. You would think that you were in a third world country.
I looked at New York City from a historical standpoint. And I can remember we always traveled by the subway or the bus. Now, when you went into the subway, it was always neat if you could see a little mouse running around down on the tracks. And every once in a while you could. And it would have been, and we're talking about the 60s and the 70s, it would have been what I called a mouse. And it was rare to see one down on the tracks. I left New York in 1980, went into the military. And I never did come back to New York City to live, but I visited frequently. And every year that I came back, and this is at large, this is not in any particular area in terms of socioeconomics. This is in general in New York City. But every time that I came back, I saw more and more of a rat infestation.
A community that does not even have decent quality grocery stores where moms can buy quality food for their kids.
It's to the point where they have signs up now. Beware signs. Big rat on the picture. Big red circle with the line, and beware of rats. On the platform where you are standing waiting for the train. On the platform now. No longer just down in the track. I used to bring my kids to New York City. Again, each year got progressively worse. It was every time that I was able to show them and they were able to look out and see a rat. And I remember the rat went through the hole, but he was having a problem getting a big ass piece of bread that he had through the hole. And so that was kind of, our New York City subway moment with rats for that year. But every year it progressed. And like I said, now it's to the point where they've got the sign. Beware of the rats on the platform where you're standing. And if you go to YouTube, you'll see there's a couple of videos out that show when rats or a rat got on the train and scurried around, not knowing where it was, freaking all the people out. The hoods, what you call the slums, the ghettos, that's one of the aspects of the ghettos, the hoods, right? The favelas. Rats, roaches. If those places are infested with rats, those are the type of places that you go in at night, click on the lights, and all of these roaches go everywhere. Those are the type of places where the people have to, down to their toothpaste, put it in the refrigerator if they don't want the roaches and the rats to get it. There's nothing surprising about the fact that he says Baltimore is rat infested. Some parts of Baltimore are. There are beautiful parts of Baltimore. There are beautiful parts of New York. And that stuff is going to go away as we have more and more gentrification, which we're seeing. For Trump to say that, to me, it just sheds light on the situation.
Cummings district is a disgusting, rat and rodent infested mess. If he spent more time in Baltimore, maybe he could help clean up this very dangerous and filthy place. No human being would want to live there.
If you don't want to be a partisan person, be neutral and ask yourself the question, do those things exist? And in fact, they do. It should also go back to not just say Representative Cummings. It should also go back to the president who presides over the entire country. That he shouldn't be proud of that, although he's putting it on the locals. And so the locals do have to ask themselves, right? Representative Cummings is going to have to ask himself, people saying, well, what is going on? What is he doing about it? Are we seeing progress in Baltimore? And I don't know. I bet you we're seeing some, but not in a lot of the lower socioeconomic areas. There's plenty of representatives like Nancy Pelosi who are worth like $20 million or something. When it gets to that point, I tend to ask myself, at what point do you really represent the little guy? To me, at some point, it even becomes a conflict of interest. The average family's not worth $20 million. She belongs in the upper crust, damn near, of the 1% that have all the shit. It doesn't stand to reason that somebody worth $20 million represents the average family. To me, there's just something out of whack with that. They did that with Representative Cummings, and they just mentioned that he has 2 houses. And that's not a big deal. Anyway, what President Trump said should make a lot of people think.
Not only is Donald Trump not a racist, he believes that all people are part of one race, the human race.
It's not just a problem that you have in Baltimore. This is all of your 48 contiguous states. Go into Boston. Go into, as I said, New York City. Go into Miami, Liberty City. Go into LA. Come into Little Rock. Go into Houston. Go into Dallas. Every city that you go to, you're going to find a hood. You're going to find what is a favela. And you're going to find that they're infested with rats. I can guarantee you.
Show some RESPICT.
America is a facade in so many ways. It's a facade. America, on one hand, is a very, very prosperous, rich nation. But on the other hand, We're a very poverty-stricken nation. Not just the fact that you don't have money. If you don't have proper health care and you keep demising when you otherwise would have been okay if you had that health care, that's poverty. And I see a lot of that in hoods, right? So we have poverty in America, a whole lot of it, and it's not getting any better. You know, Nancy Pelosi, for instance, right? She's California representative. Some of her district is in San Francisco. Do you realize how rat infested? They're talking about so many type of health epidemics now in California. People are walking over homeless people. They've got tents set up right in the metropolitan areas of San Francisco. We have poverty everywhere, man. We have poverty. It's what it is. But what President Trump has done, he has shed light on the situation. Has he not? Did you hear President Obama say that? No. And guess what? Nobody thought about it. Representative Elijah Cummings sat very comfortable.
This morning, I left my community of Baltimore, a drug-infested area.
What about that, Pelosi? Because President Trump, if you want to go partisan, he's absolutely right when he says when you look at the shitholes, because we have them, and he's right about shithole countries. We do have those too. If you don't think so, for the people who say that he's wrong, start venturing out, taking a ride around your neighborhoods. And you may not live in them. You may be lucky. But start taking a look around the neighborhoods. I'll show you some places you wouldn't even think were American. Same thing down in rural Arkansas. Please, let's not get started with America. You don't want to get started with poverty in America. But maybe President Trump has really sparked something here. Let's start looking at poverty in America. Remember, our facade is that we're such a rich and prosperous nation. President Trump has opened up some dialogue. And that's what I like about President Trump. I love it about President Trump. And as I said, I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I didn't read the story. I just overheard the headline. President Trump called Baltimore rat infested, yada, 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 said that there's poverty, there's this, that. Basically, the people are downtrodden. And I 100% agree with him. In some of the areas, I've been in places in every city. Don't talk about Alabama. I've been in rural places, man, in South Carolina that, I mean, these people don't look like they raised no hell. I didn't hear about too much about poverty under President Obama, and I don't blame him. I wouldn't want to bring that up. You know, I'm the first black president. Don't start talking to me about poverty. Shit, because in most instances, the poverty problem cannot be solved, right? Or it can be, but it would take a hell of a sacrifice. And why is that? Because if you're going to solve the poverty problem, that means that you have to some extent, redistribute wealth. And who wants to do that? Don't you see the statistic? And I'm sure I'm wrong about it, but probably relatively close, right? Where they say the top 1% own more than, the bottom 80% or something like that. And so whatever this actual statistic is, the bottom line is they're saying 1% of the people got all the shit. The rest of the motherfuckers ain't got nothing. If we want to solve the poverty problem in any equation, it would have to be that the people with some got to give some up. But in this country, more and more, it's like, hey, I ain't giving up nothing. I don't care. So when you have that type of an attitude overall, how can you solve the poverty problem? Most politicians don't want to discuss that because they know it's very hard. It's real difficult to tell people, that they can get a good job, when the people who own the corporations are for limiting the amount of income that you get per hour or your salary, right? So with those people in power, it's very hard for a person to work themselves out of poverty. More and more people pushing towards socialism. And then you have the pushback from the people who are in power now and who have the money. So it's going to be interesting to watch this because you have more and more people pushing towards socialism. And of course, we know you never go from, 0 to 120. right? But you're going to have more and more aspects of socialism creeping in because the people are suffering.
But if you're not happy, you can leave.
I know Donald
Not
Trump.
only is Donald Trump not a racist, he believes that all people are part of one race, the human race.
I know Donald Trump.
These are people that, in my opinion, hate our country. They can leave, and you know what?
Want the basic stuff: health insurance, decent job, no crime, education for their kids, and that kind of thing. If you were offended by him calling other countries shitholes, you have to be offended by him calling Baltimore shithole. However offended that you may be, you still have to say that what he says has some validity. Everybody's just, they jump all over President Trump for everything he says. And I think that, not in defending him, but let's just take what he said. Let's make it as if it wasn't President Trump, right? Make it as if it was maybe President Obama, or let's say if it was Oprah who said it, or Michelle Obama, someone you love, right? What if they said that? You would have to go and take a look at the situation. And I think you'll find that not just in Baltimore, but in Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, Texas, Nebraska, Massachusetts, Florida, the Carolinas, Virginia, go way the hell over up into Washington State, come down into damn Oklahoma. I don't need to go on. I guarantee you, every one of those places have abject poverty. I guarantee you. And I guarantee you, you can look and know that it's poverty. There's no question about it. So don't just stop at Baltimore, Press. And the bottom line is, President Trump presides over it all. So that it needs to bounce back and forth off of all of them and ask, why is this? Anyway, I'm OG Lee, and I'll see you again soon.
Show some RESPICT.